Dinner had gone on for far longer than anyone expected. James was in rare form, laughing, loud, cheerful, unstoppable. Emma laughed at all the right moments. Andrew nodded politely, contributing just enough to seem engaged. Erik held his own, warm and steady. Amanda smiled when she had to. Daniel stayed quiet, but not unusually so. Just Daniel. The round dining table, the same one they'd had since Daniel was a child, stood solid and unremarkable in the center of the room. Plates were cleared, dessert had been eaten. Now James poured whiskey for the men, sherry for the women, and declared the evening bloody perfect.
Now this is what I call a proper family night. Good food, good company, and no nonsense.
Daniel managed a small smile. He felt almost normal, almost safe. Emma leaned forward, glowing with social ease.
It's so nice to have everyone together again. Feels like forever.
Indeed. It's been refreshing.
Amanda's hand tightened around her glass. Erik noticed, but said nothing. James clapped his hands once, loudly.
Right then, let's talk politics.
Emma groaned softly. Andrew straightened, preparing to dodge. Daniel stared at his drink.
Brexit. Absolute disaster, that was. Worst decision this country ever made.
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that, James. There are economic factors, international...
Rubbish. It's simple.
He stood up a little, energized by whiskey and righteous conviction.
We took a sword and hacked ourselves away from Europe.
He brought his hand down in a sharp, slicing gesture straight across the center of the round table. And that was the moment everything broke. Daniel's breath hitched. The table, the ordinary, familiar table, shifted. Not physically, not for anyone else, but for him. A thin line of light split across the wood exactly where James's hand had cut the air. The circle pulsed, with the line cutting straight through towards Daniel on the opposite side of the table. The symbol emerged, alive, glowing, opening. The table itself had become the symbol. Daniel's chair creaked as he leaned back, eyes wide.
No. No, no, no.
Daniel, look at me, not the table.
But he couldn't. The circle widened. The hum began, low, bone deep, familiar. Emma noticed the tension.
Amanda, what's wrong? You look, I don't know, really stressed.
Everything's fine.
It wasn't. The symbol brightened. The fracture deepened. Daniel felt the pull. The same pull as 817, as the apartment, as the street.
Daniel, you're sweating. Are you feeling unwell?
What's gotten into the lad? Bit of politics never hurt anyone.
Daniel pushed back his chair, too fast, too loud, the legs scraping violently against the floor. The hum sharpened. The circle throbbed like a heartbeat.
I have to go.
Daniel, seriously? You can't just...
He's finally lost it. Completely.
Daniel didn't hear them. He was already moving, stumbling away from the table, from the circle, from the light only he could see. Amanda stood so quickly her chair toppled backward.
Daniel!
Erik hesitated, just for a heartbeat, then ran after him. The table stopped pulsing. The symbol faded. The room returned to normal. Emma stared, mortified. Andrew exhaled sharply, annoyed. James blinked in confusion, fork halfway to his mouth.
What in God's name was that about?
No one answered, because no one knew, except Amanda. And Daniel, already out the door, already running toward the fracture that waited for him in the night. The cold air hit Daniel like a slap. He stumbled down the steps, gripping the railing as if the world were tilting beneath him. The hum followed him. The pull tightened. The symbol burned behind his eyes. I can't stop it. I can't stop it. I can't. Daniel, wait! Erik caught up, grabbing Daniel's arm just as he reached the street. Daniel jerked away, not from Erik, but from the force pulling him forward. Erik, don't touch me. You're shaking. What's happening? Daniel opened his mouth to answer, but the world answered first. A low vibration rippled through the pavement, barely visible, barely real, but Daniel felt it like a hook in his spine. At the same time, in the dining room, Amanda stood frozen for a moment. Just a moment. Then she moved. She righted her chair, ignored Emma's questions, ignored Andrew's irritation, ignored James's confusion. She walked toward the door.
Amanda, where are you going?
Amanda paused, just long enough to lie.
To get my son.
And then she stepped outside, into the night, into the cold, into the fate she had been running from for years. She thought by herself while she walked.
This is it. This is the night. I can feel it. I can feel the world thinning. Daniel, please hold on. Just a little longer. Just until I reach you.
Daniel staggered into the middle of the street. The hum grew louder. The air shimmered. Erik grabbed his shoulder.
Daniel, look at me. You're scaring me.
Daniel turned, eyes wide, pupils dilated, breath ragged. A light flickered at the far end of the road, at the old town square, in front of the church. A vertical line, thin as a blade, bright as a star. The fracture. Amanda saw it the moment she stepped outside.
No, not yet. Please, not yet.
Daniel ran without knowing where he was going, but his body knew. His bones knew. The pull knew. It led him through narrow streets, past shuttered shops, past the old stone fountain, until he reached the old town square in front of the silent church at the heart of the town. Empty. Still. Waiting. And he wasn't alone. They were already there. The figures, dozens of them, standing in perfect formation, facing him. And at the center, Ronald. Ron stood utterly still, eyes fixed on Daniel, with a focus so intense it was almost inhuman. For once, he didn't glance at Amanda or Erik. He didn't notice them. He didn't notice anything except Daniel. The air vibrated. The thin vertical line of light split open in front of Daniel. The same blade of brightness he'd seen before, now widening, deepening, alive. The rift. As it deepened, the circle around it formed, and the symbol was complete. Pulsing, calling, pulling. Daniel staggered toward it, breath ragged. For the first time since he sold candy in the old kiosk, Ron spoke to him.
You need but touching it.
I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't. Amanda's voice cut through the night.
Daniel!
Daniel turned, eyes wide, terrified. She ran across the square, faster than she'd moved in years. Her heart hammered, her lungs burned. Inside her mind,
This is it. This is the moment. my last moment, my last breath, my last and final act.
She reached him just as Daniel lifted his hand toward the rift. Amanda grabbed his other arm.
I'm here. I'm here, Daniel. I've got you.
And then the impossible happened. Erik, desperate, terrified, ran after Amanda, up to Daniel, reached out and grabbed his shoulder. 3 hands, 1 contact point, 1 moment, 1 uncalculated possibility. In the very last moment, Ron noticed Erik's presence. No! The rift reacted.
The world exploded. A shock wave of light burst outward from the rift, rippling across the square, across the rooftops, across the entire town. Lightning struck every tall structure at once. The radio tower, the old mill chimney, the church spire. The church bell tower took the worst of it. A bolt of white fire slammed into the metal cross at its peak. The clock face lit up like a lantern. The gears inside glowed and fused together. And then the hands froze. 8:17. Forever. The clock would never move again. Daniel screamed, not in pain, but in resonance. His body glowed with the same light as the rift, his outline blurred. Amanda held on with all her strength.
Take me instead. Take my life. Take my breath. Take everything I am. Just let him live.
Erik held on too, not knowing what he was doing, not knowing what it meant, only knowing he couldn't let Daniel go.
Daniel, stay with me.
Ronald finally reacted. No, not him, not now. But it was too late. The rift surged. 3 energies collided. Daniel's embryonic force, Amanda's sacrificial push, Erik's human resonance. The rift couldn't parse it. It couldn't choose. So it tore.
Daniel was pulled forward, not into the rift, but through it. His body collapsed on the ground on the town square. His consciousness stretched, twisted, scattered. In his mind, he reached for Amanda. He reached for Erik. He reached for himself. And then he was gone. Not to the conglomerate's destination, not to the unions, but somewhere else. Somewhere no one had planned for. Somewhere unknown. The light vanished. The rift snapped shut. The figures collapsed like puppets with cut strings. Ron staggered backward, eyes wide with something that looked almost like fear. Then all of them disappeared, like into thin air. And Amanda? Amanda fell to her knees. She was alive, breathing, shaking, alive.
No, this isn't right. I should be gone. I should be...
She looked at her hands. They were glowing faintly. Then the glow faded. Erik knelt beside her, trembling.
Amanda, where's Daniel? Where did he go?
She couldn't hear him. The world had slipped out from under her. For the first time in her life, Amanda Shepherd had no plan.